From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hello and welcome back to the Anxiety Project podcast. I am Brad Robinson. This episode is number 122 and I'm talking about forgiveness today. So this is going to be a really powerful episode. I don't think I've talked about forgiveness yet on this podcast. So this is going to be a really powerful episode. Forgiveness is part of the journey. We all come into contact with those who betray us, who cause us some emotional disruption, some emotional harm. And we can even cause that emotional harm towards that other person. We may say something that we regret. I mean, that's part of life. So in this podcast, I want to tackle how we can not only forgive other people, but forgive ourselves. But before I get into that, I want to go over your comments on last week's episode, starting with Jolie. She says, this episode really touched me. Now, this is the episode, the Q&A episode where I talked about Googling symptoms and the fear of flying. So I answered your questions. And Jolie says, this episode really touched me because I have trouble with airplanes. And I can't wait until COVID is done so I can challenge myself with the technique you suggested. Thank you. Thank you, Jolie. And yes, I did forget to mention that, we're not, the fear of flying, conquering that nowadays is not happening because flying nowadays is so restrictive. But yes, when things start to open up and we start to travel again, use the techniques in that podcast episode to overcome your fears of flying. So thank you, Jolie, for your comment. Marina Toll says, I have a bad Googling habit. Every video or podcast you do on Googling, I am all over it and I am re-listening to it. Thank you, Marina. I'm glad that they provide you with a lot of value. I'm so grateful for your comment. Dean Weinman says, your podcast is so useful. I am a weekly listener. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And this episode is going to have a forgiveness exercise at the end. So if you're driving, if you're doing something that requires machinery, just hold off on the exercise. You can listen to it, but hold off on doing it. And when you are in a nice, comfortable place, you can do it. All right, so let's talk about forgiveness. Forgiving the people of your past is important for resolving those unresolved issues your body is holding on to. Now, if a memory comes to mind, maybe it's an interaction between you and somebody else, and it causes you negative emotion, it needs to be resolved. And I used to hold on to many of these memories. I would say things to people that I would regret, and those memories would pop up and cause me a negative emotion. You're reliving the experience. I would relive it and then feel the negative emotions and then repress it again. So in this podcast, I want to talk about those repressed memories that we're holding on to, all those parts of us that are stuck in the past that we need to resolve, right? And I want to use my ex as an example in this podcast. So I'll give you the brief backstory. Now, I dated her in my early 20s and throughout my college experience, and I was living the Peter Pan lifestyle when I was with her. And if you don't know the Peter Pan lifestyle, it's not wanting to grow up and remaining the king of the Lost Boys, the dreamer, right? And I didn't want to grow up because I had a fear of responsibility and commitment. All I wanted to do was hang around my dopey friends and dream, right? Pan means everything. So when you're young, everything is possible. When you dream about being a movie star, you dream about being on stage as a musician, and I dreamt all those things, and I believed that all of those things were possible. That lifestyle was the best lifestyle you can attain. But the thing is, I wasn't working diligently to obtain a musician lifestyle. I wasn't working diligently to become that actor, but it was the dreams that I had in my mind that made me feel good. Like, I didn't want to work a 9 to 5 job because in my mind, like the people I was looking up to believed, well, that just, that lifestyle is not good, right? It's good to have this freedom lifestyle where you are famous, where you can do whatever you want. And so I was in that dreamlike state with my friends. And looking back, my ex was attempting to pull me out of that, right? That world, that pleasure island world, right? Just impulsive pleasures. Yes, let's do it, right? I was impulsive. And you see that in The Lion King when Simba is hanging around Timon and Pumbaa, right? That was that pleasure island phase in that movie. Remember, they were singing that song that, live for the moment and tomorrow will take care of itself. Well, that's what I was doing, right? In that moment. And then you see Nala in The Lion King trying to pull Simba out of that stage, trying to pull him away from his dopey friends. And I look at this part in my life with my ex as that point in The Lion King. And my ex was sort of like Wendy, she was more grown up than I was. And she was attempting to pull me out, but back then I didn't see it that way, right? And we used to fight a lot because she was attempting to pull me out of that. I would get hostile and I would fight, and I blamed her for everything. I blamed her for my unhappiness. I blamed her for the negative emotions I was feeling. And if things didn't go my way, I would be upset, right? And I would depend on her for my own happiness, always trying to please her and not caring about myself and what I wanted. And since I wasn't changing myself and being unhappy and distressed as I was, how could I be the solid rock for her? How could I be the mature adult? I wasn't changing myself. I wasn't recognizing the parts of myself that were not working. And you see this all the time. You may see it in your life, that person that cares so much about you, but they can't take care of themselves. They try so hard to be there for you, but then you look at them and say, I appreciate that, but you're not even there for yourself. Your life is in such disarray. And I was that person. I was so involved in what other people thought of me, and I didn't spend the time looking into what I truly wanted. I was more into what other people thought, especially my ex. So if things didn't match my pleasure-seeking map of the world, I would get upset. I would become bitter towards her. I would project my anger onto her. I would be resentful of her. But the thing is, it's not only her, but myself for being a pushover. I was a huge pushover, and I didn't like who I was. I was always saying and doing things that made me feel weak. So, for instance, I would call her like 20 times if she didn't pick up the phone or in like an hour. I would call her 50 times. I'd call her over and over and over again. I look back and I think, wow, I did not have anything better to do. But it's not only that, is I viewed myself as being weak. And I felt that weakness every time I would do something like that. It could be something I said, or it could be the actions I was doing. And I didn't like who I was. And after 4 years, we ended the relationship. And the breakup was rough because I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid of the uncertainty. The uncertainty was not being with her. Even though being with her was painful, even though I wanted to break up with her, it was that uncertainty that made me stay with her, even though it was a bubble of pain, right? So you see this all the time with people who are manifesting the wrong people in their lives. They are in this loop, and you might see it with people who can't seem to get out of a negative relationship like I used to, and I know where they're coming from, because even though the relationship is painful, it's the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty, being without them. That relationship, as painful as it may be, is known territory for you. That pain is so practiced. You know that pain. And so even when you attempt to break it off with that person, it's the fear of just being without that person with that pain. Having that pain absent from your life is unknown. And that's quite distressing. And so I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of resentment and bitterness towards her for some time after we broke up. So I held on to a lot of those emotions because I didn't know how to deal with them. And that bled outward towards other people I decided to date afterwards. Going back on to the dating scene, I felt hurt for a long time. I viewed a lot of women as being the way she is. And partly that was because I was manifesting the wrong people because of who I was, right? Which I will get into. And it was also the fear of commitment, the fear of getting hurt again. And I was able to forgive her while I was going through my anxiety recovery. And at this point, I was 2 years without seeing her when I was going through my recovery. And once I became higher self-oriented, higher self-centered, things began to change. As I was becoming more disciplined, I was becoming more independent. I also knew that I had to confront the unresolved emotions of my past relationship because I still felt them. I was still reliving them. I was still replaying those mental movies over and over and over again. And at times I would catch myself reliving the rough times we had together. So I had to admit to my past mistakes. And that's the thing with anxiety recovery. That's the thing with self development. Things get worse before they get better. And what that means is you have to confront the pain that you have been repressing for a long period of time. And so the mentors I were and still am looking up to during my recovery, they found freedom in that. They found freedom in admitting to yourself your past mistakes. And I blamed her for a lot of what I felt, all the pain that I was going through. I projected all my anger, I projected my frustrations, I projected my fears all onto her. And in the end, I blamed her for everything going wrong. And so I needed to confront myself and what I was doing in the past that was causing me pain. And my ego was a big part of that. My ego said she was a terrible person. My ego said she caused all that pain. I was identified to that. And admitting to myself my mistakes was a dissolution of that ego. And then I also said to myself, what was I doing in the past that was causing all of that suffering? Well, I was dependent. I was selfish. I was a liar. I ignored responsibility. I valued my dopey friends more. I was immature, impulsive, confused, lost, afraid to break it off, afraid of loneliness, afraid of change. And so coming to the truth is how I forgave her. Coming to the truth of what I was doing in the past. And it also takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. And when I did this forgiveness exercise, which I will go through with you guys, when I would do this forgiveness exercise over and over and over again, a lot of emotions would come up. A lot of the truth would come up, and it was painful. So it takes courage to confront that pain. And it's easier to become so identified in the ego. The ego is identified to form, right? You're so identified to your identity and the unwillingness to go beyond that, to confront the flaws, right? And that, like I said before, that's the dissolution of the ego, the dissolvement of the ego. And that dissolvement came during my recovery when I went over my past with a fine-tooth comb, right? Picking out the bugs in the hair, right? Picking out the fleas is a good way of looking at it. Picking out the fleas in the fur, right? One at a time, picking them out, going over, rescanning your past, going over the memories that are causing you strong negative emotion. And that's what baggage is. Baggage is things you haven't understood yet, right? And for a long time, parts of me was trying to understand what happened by reliving those memories over and over and over again. And so I'm going to go over this really powerful exercise with you that you can do anytime. And if you have somebody that you want to forgive, if you've wronged somebody, if you said anything to somebody that caused them pain, this is a great exercise to release that emotional tie with them, right? And I want to make it clear that this exercise is like a reset button. It's not like you're going to completely, let me think. It's not like you're going to completely cut all emotions from that person. You're resetting the emotions. Like if you have a lot of negative emotions there, this exercise is breaking that negative emotion, and you can view the person from a more of a neutral perspective. That's the beauty of this exercise. And so let's get into it. So first, we will do some simple breathing, 3 by 3 by 4 breathing. So let's begin now. Breathing in through the nose for 3 seconds. 2, 3. Hold for 3, 2, 3. And exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. In through the nose. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. And exhale. 3, 2, 1. And one more time. In through the nose. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. And exhale through the mouth. 3, 2, 1. Now just sit there comfortably with your eyes closed, breathing normally. And I want you to imagine your safe place, somewhere that you feel safe. It could be in the woods somewhere, your favorite hiking trail. It could be your favorite coffee shop. It could be a place in your house. Wherever it is, imagine your safe place, and I want you to imagine a healing light coming from above you, shining on your body. And imagine that healing light filling your whole body now, from your toes to your head, and from your head to your toes. Imagine that healing light filling up your whole body. And imagine any negative energy that you are holding on to releasing from your body through the breath. It could be in the form of smoke, in the form of a color. Imagine that negative energy leaving your body now. And then I want you to bring about in your healing space a person that you want to resolve emotional ties with. And I want you to bring about this person in your mind's eye, and I want you to connect a thread of healing energy from your heart to their heart. And I want you to imagine the healing light within your body going down on this thread to their heart. And imagine the healing light filling up their body. And then now say to them, I forgive you. Please forgive me too. And imagine that healing light within their body glowing 2 times stronger within them. And I want you to imagine that person saying that line back to you. I forgive you. Please forgive me too. And imagine the healing light from their heart to your heart and the light within you glowing 2 times stronger now. Feel the healing energy. And now I want you to say anything that you want to say to them. So anything that you want to say it to them. Any thoughts, feelings, emotions, anything that you want to resolve the emotional ties with, just say whatever you need to say, and I'll give you a moment. Anything you need to say it to them. How you wronged them, what you did, what you said, what they did. It's time to resolve those issues. Now, I want you to say back to them, I forgive you. Please forgive me too. Heal them up, fill them up with healing light, and imagine them saying it back to you. I forgive you. Please forgive me too. And now it's time to sever the emotional ties with that person, the negative emotional ties with that person, by slicing through that line between your heart and their heart, that thread. Imagine a bright, healing blade of light coming down from the top of the screen and slicing through that thread, releasing your ties with that person. And now imagine the stage, imagine that person disappearing from your mind's eye, and recognize yourself and the feelings you have now, releasing that baggage. And now we'll do some breathing to come out of the meditation. So we'll do some more of that 3 by 3 by 4. So breathe in through the nose. 2, 3, hold. 2, 3, and exhale. 3, 2, 1. One more time. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. And exhale. 3, 2, 1. And now sit with your breath. Feel the lightness. Feel the feelings that you are experiencing. And whenever you are ready, you can open up your eyes and come back. Well done. And that's the forgiveness exercise. Do it as much as you need to. And this is something that I did for all my past emotional memories that came to mind with other people, right? So the negative experiences I have had with other people, I've done this exercise with them and released that baggage that I've been holding on to. And I recommend that you do this as much as you need to. And that's where I'm going to leave you on today's podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so grateful. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment. Is there anything I missed? What did you enjoy about this podcast? And lastly, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next podcast episode. Bye for now.
Brad's powerful anxiety recovery program is available at unpluganxiety.com. The Anxiety Project program is downloadable and puts the power of anxiety recovery in your own hands. What are you waiting for? Visit unpluganxiety.com for more details. Recovery starts now.